All right, greetings, everybody. Here we are, back to our weekly meetings where I will cover different topics, different questions that were asked to me throughout the week. Yes, I've been a little absent the last couple. I apologize for that, but we're here now, and we are going to talk about autoimmune disease and how that plays into the diet that you've been working on. And by the way, just looking at some of your numbers, I'm really proud of y'all. But from the beginning, when we created this, we were looking more at creating something that is going to help with inflammation, with autoimmunity, with gut healing. That's the core of this program that you've been on. We just call it a weight loss program because that's the number one thing that it helps with. But the reality is we actually created this for autoimmune disease, for gut healing. So when people reach out to me and ask, hey, what about this particular condition? And last week, it was someone was asking me about idiopathic urticaria, which is basically an unknown skin rash that causes hives. Then I can go back and say, well, that's an autoimmune disease. I've got this program already created for it. For the rest of you, we just call it a weight loss program, and off we go. So I want to get into a little bit of detail today about autoimmune issues and how to heal it naturally. And you're going to actually recognize some of the steps because they are part of the program that you are already on. So that being said, let's talk about what autoimmune disease is. Autoimmune disease is when your immune system actually attacks your own body. It becomes confused and starts turning against your own tissue. Some of the more popular autoimmune diseases include rheumatoid arthritis, otherwise known as RA, on the TV commercials, as well as other forms of arthritis. And yes, there is an autoimmune component to osteoarthritis. It's not just wear and tear. Hashimoto's thyroiditis. This is where your immune system actually attacks your thyroid and creates hypothyroidism. That is the number one cause of hypothyroidism. And then there's Graves' disease, which is it actually causes overactive thyroid. Type 1 diabetes is when your immune system starts attacking your pancreas and you can't produce insulin. And then systemic lupus erythematosus, or just lupus or SLE. You're going to hear more about that one here in just a bit. Multiple sclerosis is a nervous system issue. Psoriasis is a skin issue. Celiac disease is an autoimmune reaction to gluten that causes gut symptoms, which is a very small portion of the people that have a gluten issue, and inflammatory bowel disease and things like Sjogren's syndrome. So other symptoms, my computer just decided to take a break, I guess. There we go. Symptoms related to autoimmunity include dysglycemia, insulin resistance, or type 2 diabetes, fatigue, joint pain or stiffness, muscle ache or weakness, brain fog or difficulty concentrating, digestive issues, including bloating, diarrhea, or constipation, skin rashes or changes, hair loss, neuropathy, low-grade fever, or swollen glands. I bring these up for a reason. I bring these up because you can have an autoimmune issue that's happening that the doctors really have no explanation for, and it's not bad enough that they can do like a biopsy to give it a name. And frankly, you don't want to get it that far, because once it gets that far, that's when they're going to just start throwing medications at it. And I hate to say it, but it's all just kind of downhill from there. So those are the symptoms related to autoimmunity. I would be remiss if I did not share. I don't know what's up with my computer this morning. There we go. I'd be remiss if I did not share Kim's story. You all know Kim as my wife. She helps me a lot with this program. But you would never know that Kim actually has lupus. She completely manages it with diet, with exercise. And on occasion, we have little flares, especially when there's a full moon, which is wild. It's a whole nother thing. On occasion, you can see the little stork bite marks on the back of her neck, which is pretty classic for lupus. But because of the way she lives, she actually keeps that 100% controlled. And even she was diagnosed before she even met me. And even back then, she's like, I am not taking the medications for this. We're going to do this another way. And then we met. I issued a challenge to her with her diet, and we've just kind of taken off from there. So she's really the queen behind all of this, even though I had created a similar program before I even met her. But she's the one that put a face to it for me, and she's actually the one that kind of keeps me motivated, keeps me driving to make this better and to help all of you understand what you need to do to take care of yourselves, because frankly, the medical system's just getting worse and worse. So, oops. What if I told you, though, that over 70% of your immune system actually lives in your gut? Think about that for a second. 70% of your immune system lives in your gut. So if you have an autoimmune issue, what does that tell you? Where does that tell you we need to look? Right? It's in your gut. If you have autoimmunity, if you have those symptoms, you've got inflammation. And dealing with that is likely going to start in your kitchen, and it really has very little to do with genetics. I love this picture. Blood pressure, we didn't talk about that in the symptoms, but elevated blood pressure is a sign of autoimmunity. And this dad is telling his boy, blood pressure issues are genetic while they're consuming standard American diet, which is the number one cause of autoimmunity. So why is autoimmunity so common now? Well, we live on a diet of processed food, and I should have put in there the standard American diet, which is SAD. Our food is loaded with glyphosate, it's loaded with seed oils, it's loaded with artificial sweeteners, and all of these are drivers for autoimmunity. From our environment, we get mold, we get stress that causes gut dysbiosis, and I put this emoji in there so you know what I'm talking about, because as soon as I say what that is, then I get edited, and I won't be able to put this video on YouTube. So there has been a massive increase in autoimmune disease since 2020 because of the emoji on your screen. Just stop and digest that for just a second. And my picture is actually covering the emoji. That's funny. So the emoji is syringes with needles attached. Use your imagination. It's been 2020. Y'all get what I mean. Hey, so some of these are just kind of broken. Your medications are going to suppress the symptoms. They don't get to the root cause. The root cause, we've got to talk about the gut immune, the brain axis, which I should put brain in there, but I didn't. Basically, 70% of your immune system is your gut. Your gut has a direct link to your brain. Your brain controls your immune system, and you go around this pathway. And the core of that pathway is take care of your gut, because it's going to take care of you. Hey, that's what's going to help us get through this. So if we can take care of the gut, that's going to help the brain. And by the way, when we talk about autoimmune disease, we talk about decreasing blood flow to certain tissues. The brain's going to be the number one thing that's affected. And that's when we're going to start talking about brain issues like dementia, Alzheimer's, etc. Then we have this thing called leaky gut syndrome that the standard American diet gives us. Up here at the top, you can see these tall, skinny cells that are tightly packed together inside of your small intestine. They are selective gates that allow food to enter to your bloodstream. Unfortunately, those gates become worn out, tired, and break open, and they allow other things other than proteins, carbohydrates, fats, and so forth to absorb. So we get things like bacteria, whole undigested food, and the problems just start to rage from here. In fact, if we call this anything right here, this is the beginning of the forest fire. So the triggers that you can control, what you can do is the absolute elimination of all seed oils, okay, which includes vegetable oil, corn oil, etc. Gluten, getting away from gluten and dairy. There's the whole thing about zonulin, which is like the protein that keeps those tight junctions together. That's going to create leaky gut syndrome. Sugar and high fructose corn syrup are things you want to avoid, or to stay away from. And if this all looks familiar, it's because it's part of the plan that you're already on. We're already avoiding these things. But you could add things like bone broth, fermented foods, which contain polyphenols, are actually going to help to heal your gut. And then morning sunlight, movement, and stress reduction. This crazy thing, like you increase your stress, guess what that does to your gut lining? It creates leaky gut syndrome. So that's definitely something that you want to bear in mind. All right, so how can we handle it differently? Well, or how do we handle it differently? Well, we don't suppress your immune system. Hey, when you go to medications, you are going to suppress your immune system. We are not going to do that. We are about restoring balance. We can look into things like functional labs. We can do GI maps. We can look at antibodies. We can look at those true core metabolic panels and look and see from a microscopic angle what's happening. Anti-inflammatory food protocols. You guys already have this. This is what we give you when you start the program. Lipotropic drops that you're taking actually supports liver detox pathways, so you can get rid of some of those toxins in your body. Now, the next level is going to be like exosomes and stem cells that we can do via IV or via nebulization to help calm some of these things. Those are in extreme cases. So I do have some extreme cases where we look at labs. Then we start with anti-inflammatory food protocols. Then we couple that with exosomes and stem cells because it helps calm that system down. Hey, supplements. There are a few supplements that you can take to help support your gut and your immune system, including vitamin D3. There's what's called an immune system modulator, which I didn't want to get into this, but I think I will. Your immune system has there's basically two sides of your immune system. You have a Th1 system and a Th2 system. Think of your Th1 system like it's the first responder. So when a pathogen gets in, it's going to cause the short-term response. Your Th2 is kind of the cleanup batter. It's just going to come in afterwards and help with a long-term, getting rid of whatever it is that pathogen is. And a lot of autoimmune diseases happen because that Th1, Th2 balance gets thrown out of whack. Well, vitamin D3 and omega-3s actually help stabilize that Th1, Th2 thing through a whole separate pathway called Th3, but we won't get into that. There's actually probiotics that you can take that can help balance that Th1, Th2, there's a certain strain called bifidobacterium. And if you want more information on that, I've got it. But those good gut bugs can actually help with that intestinal permeability or leaky gut and help calm those autoimmune system calm your immune system down. So think of these are more like reinforcements. They're not replacements. So just bear that in mind. These aren't, these are just to help you get over the hump. So clean living, clean diet, and supporting your immune system. Those are just great ways to help you regulate your immune system, help you regulate these autoimmune diseases. Otherwise, they run out of control and you're going to end up just on medication. And I'm telling this because I see it every day. What happens is you go to the doctor, they're going to give you the name of the disease, and then they're going to give you a medication for the symptoms, and you're just going to go around and around and around. And it's till you start making actual changes, like I'm suggesting here, that you're going to start to see a difference. So that's what I had for you today. I don't see any questions that have come in since I've been flapping my gums. Just know y'all can ask me questions. I will answer them in these videos as I can. And we're going to get back on track and doing these on the weekly. So don't know what we're going to cover next week. But until then, shoot me your questions and we will dive in. So I appreciate everybody. Your support's amazing to me. Drops will be back in stock hopefully in the next week or so. I just heard from them this morning. Otherwise, let's rock and roll. I appreciate y'all.